said, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the things you did do. Let's pray. Most gracious Father, we thank you tonight for the opportunity to meet and consider the future of our community. Bless everyone that's here and those that are watching at home. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mary. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilor McDonald?
Here.
Graham?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Candia?
Here.
Day?
Here.
Mayor Martina?
Here. Let's see, declaration of conflict of interest,
None.
None tonight.
there being none. And we're going to move on to item 6, with the ceremonial matters. And tonight we have a presentation, First Measure L, monies by Stan Cog, and Rosa Park, the director, was going to make the presentation and tell us about all the good money we're getting to repair our roads.
Thank you for having me. I'm Rosa de Leon Park, the Executive Director of the Stanislaus Council of Governments. And I'm excited to be here tonight, and I'll just give you a very quick brief. In November 2016, this county made history. The voters passed a Measure L half-cent sales tax for transportation improvements of our region. Well, today, we started collecting those taxes on April 1st of 2017. And it took some time to get our accounting system in order, working with all of the cities of how to do the accountability. We had to form a Measure L oversight committee, because that was a promise of making sure that the dollars are going to go to what they're intended for, and that's transportation projects. So tonight, you received a check. The city of Newman has received their very first Measure L check, but that will include 50% goes to Fix It First, 10% will go to traffic management, and the 5% will go to bike and pedestrian projects. So I wanted to bring you a check, and hopefully we could do a picture of the council, and also I want to acknowledge one of our other board members here, Member DiMartini, who is your County Board of Supervisor, and he was also very instrumental on the passage of Measure L. So I want to congratulate you all and your citizens of Newman for this achievement, and this is exciting. So we have 25 years to fix our roads and make huge improvements, and I'm sure with Michael Holland at your lead, we'll get that done. So if we could take that picture, it would be very nice. But anyway. Is there?
Mayor?
I don't know where.
So why don't we get everyone out there?
There you go.
Right.
Okay.
We want everyone. That means Mr. Jim Miller. Come on, Michael. You don't.
It's not letting me open. It's saying like they're like it. Yeah, it's almost like it's not an image. It's let's see.
There we go.
See how it's like they're saved as an shortcut here? This one might work. I probably. So I probably can get the two that say JPEG image. Okay.
Oh, there's the
That still shows no problem.
Okay.
One, two, three.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next week we get another check.
You're gonna get it monthly. Thank you.
monthly. So we can get that with your bonus.
That's a lot of money.
He'll just take a big check. He doesn't need it.
I won't fit in
Did not mention the amount.
was $252,850.
I can do it by picture. Got a number straight.
Thank you.
They say spend it wisely, Michael.
He does.
And, I don't think you mentioned, Rosa, when this came about, I think Stan Cog, they understood that small cities are not going to get a very good percent. And I know you increased the percentage for small cities, and we thank you for that.
Thank you. Well, that was the work with all of the city managers, and Michael was part of those discussions.
So it sweetened the pot for us, but we thank you for that. And with that, we'll move on to B, which is proclamation. This is Library Week. And with that, I have a proclamation that I would like to read to our librarian. All right, how we doing? Anyway, what would the city be without a library?
Yeah.
It would be a city, that's for sure. This is proclamation of the mayor of City of Newman. Whereas libraries are not just another what they have for people, but what they do for and with people. And whereas libraries lead in working in diversity communities, including people of color, immigration, and people with disabilities, offering services and educational resources that transform communities, open minds, and promote inclusions and diversion. And whereas reading and literacy and freedom to explore are cornerstones of free and democratic society. And whereas literacy is key to achieving personal success in school, in business, and in life. And whereas libraries and librarians open up a world of possibilities through technology, education, programming, and through the power of information. And whereas libraries offer 24/7 access to library service through online resources such as ebook, email, e-magazines, downloadable audiobooks, music, and movies, online language instruction, and research database. That's a lot. And whereas libraries partner with parents and caregivers to empower children to enter kindergarten with the knowledge and skills necessary for success in school and beyond. And whereas libraries continually grow and evolve in how they provide for the needs of every member of their community. And whereas libraries, librarians, library workers, volunteers, and supporters in Stanislaus County are celebrating National Library Week. Now, therefore, I, Bob Martina, Mayor of the City of Great City of Newman, do hereby proclaim April 8th through 14th, 2018 as National Library Week in the City of Newman, and urge everyone to visit libraries and to take advantage of the wonderful sources they provide.
Since we're talking about the library, I'll just go over a few programs we had this month. We had the St. Patrick's Day bingo. We had 41 people attend. The Activated Story Theater did a play for us on Saturday, and 50 people were there. And then today we had the Easter Bunny, and we had 82 people.
Nice. Good.
So that's pretty good for us. And then in April, we are taking a break from story time so I can prepare for the next few months of story time. But we will be having a few programs. The Pinecone Bird Feeder on the 10th of April at 4 p.m. Marble magnet decorating on April 24th at 4 p.m. And of course, our Legos every other Thursday and Stay and Play every other Friday. Mm-hmm. And our Friends meeting is always the first Tuesday of the month.
It was great. How many? You had 80 people?
82.
That's, oh my
That's
gosh.
fantastic.
That's good. That is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And a lady named Angela dressed up as the Easter Bunny. And all the kids got to take pictures with the Easter Bunny. And we had the little bag craft where you made the little Easter Bunny with the cotton tail. And the kids just had a blast today.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
That's wonderful. Anyway, with that, we'll move on to item C, which is the presentation by the West Side Theater. And Harris Larson's going to make the presentation, or part of it, or all of it.
I'll just start. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. And your honor.
Welcome, Farron.
So, first of all, previously we had given a report. We've given you all our tax returns, and you have all that. I think you got that in October. And usually we'd give a presentation at that time to let you know what we have done. Well, I think we haven't done that for, maybe 10, 15 years. But we should be doing that all along, so we're going to do it this year. So you got our tax returns. for the fiscal year ending on June 17th. And first of all, I wanted to tell you our mission statement. The Westside Theater Foundation is a community service organization dedicated to the introduction, education, enhancement, and presentation of cultural arts, the renovation and maintenance of a center for the arts and civic events on the West Side. And what we did in 2017 will demonstrate that we really adhere to this. So our gross income was $110,000 in that year. We spent $7,000 on facilities and equipment. On operations, we spent $3,000. License and permits, $3,000. Insurance, $3,000. The green room and work area, $5,000. Advertising, $13,000. Scholarships, $7,000. Performers got paid $36,000. We spent $15,000 on supplies. Now, all those monies are spent basically locally, so that's a nice thing. So that meant that we had a net of $9,000. Yay! So we did really good this last year. The year before, not so good. The year before, we were $5,700 in the red because we had painted the outside of the building and re-asphalted the alley for all the performers, etc. So we were a little behind. I have a no interest charge card. We were cool. We've partnered with the city for 23 years now, and it's been a great partnership. It's been amazing. It's an amazing thing that we have for our city and our town, and it's because of that partnership that we've been able to achieve that goal. And when we first started, I don't believe that most of the council didn't believe that it was going to be possible. But by golly, we showed them. And we just kept at it. Didn't we, Bob? So last year, we had over 60 events. We had over 10,000 people in attendance. And it was in use over 230 days. So that is for meetings and classes and dinners and dances and auditions, local and county. Yes, company does their auditions here as well. Performances, fall festival events, rehearsals, setups, Salvation Army, Feed the Hungry, toys for Newman tots, chamber mixers, city luncheons, and the city programs that we have and the county programs that we have. So it is really used, and that has always been our goal, that it is an integral part of the city and everyone is included in that. So upcoming next, we have 4 weddings and an Elvis, which is all local people in it. And it's, and my sister's directing, yay, I didn't have to. I'm just doing the set. And MCT's The Wiz of the West. Now, we've had them about 20 times. They take 64 kids and they put them on stage, and in 5 days, they teach them dance, song, movement, everything. It's amazing. They travel around. They reach about 650,000 kids a year. Canada, Europe, China, and the United States. And they travel on in a little red truck, and they go in, and 2 people come in, and they audition on Monday. They start rehearsal right then, and they put them on stage on Saturday. And on Sunday, they travel to a new place, and they do the same thing. For 6 months, they do the same show. And it's amazing. So if you have any grandkids or nephews or nieces, K through 12, so please get them involved. And we have some funding for that, so that's a good thing. But most places charge them up to $700 to be involved. But we can't do that here, so it's free participation. Come on down. I wanted to say that we're all volunteers, and we've always been an all-volunteer organization. For each event that we have, each night, of course, some a little more than others, or a lot more than others, but approximately 110 volunteer hours go into just that one single performance. We're not talking about anything else, just that one single performance. So, and It's been going strong. Gail is our, Chapman is our president, and she's our volunteer coordinator. So anyone who would like to be involved, please, please do so. Yes, she's the lady to call. She's really nice, too. We've collaborated now with Westside Take Stage, and that is an organization run by Samia Metzer-Philpott, and she collects donations from businesses all around the West Side, from Santanella to Wesley, and she gives an audition and one program a year, and they compete for scholarship monies in fine arts, in drama, dance, vocal, and musicianship, so pianos, etc. She has professional judges. It's like you're being a juried for a college application, etc. And she's in three years, she's given out over $21,000. So that's a very proudful thing, and they get the money right then to continue their education. So in the 23 years, my husband was wearing the Fantastics. Are you still out on? Well, and that was one of the first plays we did. That the young teenage boy that was had the male lead in that is Wolfson's nephew, and he is touring with Pavarotti as part of the tenors. So, and many of our students have gone on to do great things, and it's so proudful that they can come from a little town and see that grow and see that spark in them. So we're real proud of that. I know we have, I wanted to tell you that mission statement one more time, and you will see that we really have done that. The Westside Theater Foundation is a community service organization dedicated to the introduction, education, enhancement, and presentation of cultural arts, the renovation and maintenance of a center for the arts and civic events on the West Side. So I hope you all appreciate that. We are in need of some different improvements, and heretofore we've had redevelopment funds, and that helped us all along. And we'd get a little money and we'd just do it, and we just keep doing it, and that's what we've done all along. I think 2011 was the last time the city was able to give us any funds. They do help us with all kinds of projects all the time. They've helped us with the neon, to keep the neon going. They've helped us, we had to replace all the plumbing for the men's room, and they do halvesies, they help us with some. But we have a couple projects, and I'd like to bring up our pro bono architect to explain those to you. And thank you very much. Thank you for all your help.
Thank you, Ferris. Thank you for 23 wonderful years, so.
Good evening, Martin Salmon, Main Street Development Associates. And there are a number of things the theater always needs. It's an old building, and I can speak from experience that getting old, you find it has an effect on the facility. Certain things get sore. Certain things don't work the way they used to. But if you keep after it, you can keep going on, and that's what we're doing at the theater. Right now, one of the more important things we've noticed is the forward roofing of the building, which is over 20 years old now, is eroding away and needs some service soon, or we're going to have a lobby full of water after it gets through the second floor. So we're going to have to take that seriously, and as we did when we did the marquee roof, which is perfect now. It has not leaked at all since we put a coating on it a few years ago. So we're intending on doing that with the rest of the flat roofing that occurs in the building, which is in the forward portion of the building, and we have included a quote for doing that work here. It also includes some walking pads, which are very important because there are some slopes, and it can be kind of dangerous. You can actually slip on this coating we're putting on. It's silicone, and nothing will stick to it, including your shoes. So we have to put some grit pathways so we can walk safely to the places that we need to get to on the roof. We're including an addition of a roof ladder. Currently have to take an extension ladder and stick it out through a window and take it around the corner and take it up over there and get it up. It's difficult, let's say. I actually recently had to do that 6 times in 1 week, and I can guarantee you that it's part of why this elbow doesn't work so well right now. So an addition of a permanent, safe roof ladder is something we would love to address, because that allows not just us and people that we invite to look at and work on things. It also lets the city have access to the roof, which has been an issue in the past. Keeps our maintenance schedule working well when you can actually get there easily. You don't tend to try to not go there. So that's important. Another thing that I personally am interested in is getting some conditioned air and heating in the lobby. It's never had any air conditioning or heating in the lobby, where everybody that uses the theater has to go through, and they tend to come back there because there's concessions and the restrooms are there. So those areas are alternately very hot or very cold, depending on the time of year. And we've figured a way to install a separate unit there that will be up above the second floor area and distribute air conditioning into the lobby. And I think actually we have enough capacity to hit the restrooms at the same time and have that whole forward area of creature comfort, where it's never been that way before. The kitchen and office have separate little systems, and they're functioning fine. The actual place where all the people walk through is pretty difficult, and where I stand, which is behind the bar, my feet are roasting because all the refrigerators are putting hot air out from underneath, and it gets pretty interesting in the summer down there. So we are looking forward to opening these discussions and hopefully successfully partnering with you to do these 2 wonderful things. Questions?
I was looking on here, both the bids are from 1/7/4 and 1/7/16 of 2017, so those are like 8 months old.
Yeah,
Are they
I
still
just
still
talked
good?
to both contractors a week ago, because I couldn't find the bids, and they confirmed them to me at that time.
That they'll still stand with
Yeah.
that price?
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation, and everyone in this room, or anyone that's lived in Newman, knows how important the theater is to the city. Like I said earlier, the city's not a city without a library, and the city's not a city without a theater. And it's just all those wonderful years and all the special plays that we've been able to see, and the talent and everything else. We've always talked about the theater being the focal point of the town. A lot of people don't realize it, but that is the focal point. We've got the plaza right across the street, so it all ties in. So it just makes for a beautiful environment, a great place and a venue for a lot of different things. So anyway, thank you for your presentation.
As you know from the mayor's dinners, everybody is envious of that installation.
I understand.
Thank you all.
May I add, in reference to the theater, is that well, thank you so much for your participation in terms of making sure that we have the arts here in Newman. And, she has an opera voice, and every time I see her, I let her know about that. But thanks so much for, your participation in making sure that we do have the arts here in the city of Newman, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
We're so supported by the community,
Yeah. And of course, that's a landmark, right, for the city of Newman, the theater. So that's more important, that we really, get behind you and support you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And anyway, with that, we're going to move on to the next item, which will be items from the public, either non-agenda items, and anyone would like to speak to the council, please go to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Council. My name is Troy Willis. I stay at 769 Oristimba Peak Drive.
I'm here before you today because I'm having a problem with trees in my, this off of Sherman Parkway. That's a nuisance to my backyard. They're shedding pine needles, and they're covering my entire backyard, including my sidewalk as well. I have more pictures for you today, but only a couple of them came up, and it's extreme. And then the trees are now leaning into the yard, which is now affecting a brick wall that we have up. Keeps from going over to the ravine, and it's cracking the mortar in my bricks now, where the tree is actually pushing it and through, where it's now breaking. I talked to a department that handles the trees, and they told me that they ran out of money for the budget for last year, and they was trying to see if they got enough money this year, because I have 3 trees, and it's getting to be even more problem because I have grandchildren that run around in the back as well. And now it gets to the point that I got people literally coming out. You can see the pine needles are just covering my yard completely, including the sidewalk and everything. So this is constantly a cost as well to me to keep having this mess cleaned up, which is not my trees. So I'm looking for assistance from the councils today to see if we can help me get rid of these 3 trees. It's a nuisance to my yard.
I don't know what the code is on it.
We actually have a program that is administered by Ms. Reyes in the Public Works Department, so we'll just document his address and then get it to Mrs. Reyes, and then we'll make sure that the next time that we have our tree trimmers out there, that they include his as part of that program.
Yeah, it's a unique problem when you're living next to someone, and whatever they have, whatever trees they have is going to end up in your yard.
Well, these are city trees, but the problem is that these trees are now leaning into my wall, and it's breaking the mortar, and it's causing my whole entire backyard to be saturated with pine needles, which hurt.
If it's the city trees, I think we can take care of it.
Yeah, those are the trees in the Sherman Parkway on the back side of the wall there. So we've had a program where we've removed several trees over the last few years. There's a program where we have just been taking them down. It's just maybe we just haven't gone to that part yet. But Ms. Reyes will look into this, and then and at the earliest opportunity we can do it, we'll make sure that he's included the next time a contractor comes in and handles it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And may I say this, is that once you have filed your complaint, with the city, they're pretty good in terms of following up with that. But please keep us abreast in terms of how things worked out, even when they come out to, survey and take care of that problem. Let us know how that worked out for you.
I will.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, who would also like to speak to the council?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City staff. My name is Joseph Wood. This address, 1701 Robertson Road, Modesto. I'm actually here on behalf of the Housing Authority of the County of Stanislaus, actually here for another item, but I figured I'd take this opportunity to just introduce myself. I'm in charge of property management for the Housing Authority. We do have a number of units, number of properties here within this community. A very wonderful community, just the short time I've been through here. So I wanted to let you know that our intent is to really establish our properties, our presence here as a very strong positive influence. We believe in partnering with our community, our neighbors. I bring to the agency a background in public programs, community programs, gang intervention, that type of thing. So we're looking at whatever we can do. I'd like to follow up back with city staff sometime in the future to see how we can work together to, again, make our properties and make this entire community have them all thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak with the council tonight? Okay. Being no one, we'll move on to item 8, which is the consent calendar. A, waive all readings of ordinance and resolutions except by title. B, approval of warrants. C, approval of minutes of the March 13th, 2018 meeting. D, adopt resolution number 2018, next number, resolution declaring certain personal property surplus property and authorizing disposal and/or sale of property. E, adopt resolution number 2018, next number, a resolution of concurrence in support of the Stanislaus County CDBG fiscal year 2018-2019 annual action plan.
I move that we approve the consent calendar as read.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. 9 is a public hearing. Adopt resolution number 2018, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance and ordinance number 281, mistletoe abatement. You'd think one of these years we get rid of all this damn mistletoe. Is it doing good?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Broadleaf Mistletoe is an evergreen parasite plant that grows on a number of landscape tree species in California. Mistletoe reduces growth in trees by utilizing the host mainly for water and mineral nutrients and may kill them with heavy infestations. These plants produce small, sticky, whitish berries. The male plant is typically spread to other trees from birds, and it's important to remove mistletoe before it spreads to other limbs or trees. The most effective method for control is through complete removal of the branch by mechanical pruning. Mistletoe cannot be completely eradicated, however. It can be controlled through complete removal. Abatement notices for removal of mistletoe were sent out to 85 properties in accordance with the City of Newman Municipal Code, Chapter 9.06, Section 9.06.020, Notice to Abate. This notice informs property owners of all the nuisance abatement procedures, options, and their right to object at a public hearing. It is anticipated that many property owners will comply with the abatement notices prior to the hearing date, which many of the residents did. And the final notices is the list that I handed out. For the record, there's 28 properties that have not removed the mistletoe yet, and we still, within the next week or two, will give them the chance to remove it themselves and coordinate with them. Otherwise, we've identified how much it will cost them for us to remove it, including an administrative fee. Conclusion is that mistletoe is a parasitic plant affecting trees in the city, and we've sent out the proper notices. We're going to have a public hearing, and the staff recommends that City Council adopt Resolution 2018, next number, declaring the existence of a public nuisance under Ordinance Number 281, mistletoe abatement. Thank you. If there's any questions.
Yeah, what is the difference in the cost? I see one is like over $700.
It's dependent upon how many trees, how big the tree is, and how much mistletoe is infested. So we had several tree companies come out, and they actually went to each property and looked at the actual conditions of the property, and then that's how they provided the quote.
Question, we do this annually.
Yes.
You would think annually that this would not recur that fast. I mean, is it something that...
It does occur fairly fast. The city trees were removing mistletoe as well, in correlation with notifying other residents. The city trees, we've been removing it, and it's the same trees. And then you get one little bit of it from bird droppings, and then it grows, and it grows over the seed. Right now, you're going to stop seeing it because the leaves, the trees fully leaf out. So it's just going to get a little foothold, and it's going to grow and grow and grow. And then next winter, when all the leaves fall, then you'll see it in its full glory, and that's when we do the survey and send out the notices.
One question. This is a list of people that have not responded?
That's right. And a lot of them, for clarification, they want the city just to handle it. They're like, it's a reasonable cost in their eyes, And so they have received the notice, and some of them have just let us know that, okay, I agree, and I'll pay that cost to have the mistletoe removed. Not all of them from this list, but some.
So when you say you're going to have a public hearing on this, what do you
Having it
expect?
tonight,
Oh, tonight?
yes,
So were they informed that it?
yes.
And you said a couple extra weeks. What
Well,
is that?
it's-
Shouldn't we have a specific date on when the
It-
fees are going to be implemented?
It's dependent upon the tree schedule, so once we know the tree removal company can schedule it and come in, so over the next few days, if they remove it before and call us and let us know it's removed, then we'll take them off the list. But these properties are being noticed that we will abate them and
Right.
pass that cost on.
So they'll get another notice, these 28 will get another notice from you?
No, they'll get a notice in the form of an invoice.
Okay.
No further questions? With that, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up to public for any comments. There being none, I bring it back to the council for direction.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2018 next in number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 281, mistletoe abatement.
I'll second that notice.
Motion. Excuse me. A motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. 10 is regular business. A, report on Northwest Newman Policy Implementation Program.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one. In case any members of the public want a copy of it, there's a hard copy right here for you. So, Mayor, as you know, in December of this year, this council approved the annexation of the Northwest Quadrant, which is Master Plan Area 3. During the process, the public hearing process, of which we had one at the Planning Commission and two at City Council level, there were a number of issues that were brought forward by property owners and people who live in the area. This policy implementation program is our attempt to go ahead and address some of those issues. I think some of yours might be single-sided, so I'm going to pass these out because you're missing pages. So what staff did is we went through our city ordinances and policies and looked at them and how they pertain to these particular issues. And then we've drafted this policy implementation program for your review and or approval. This program was mailed out to all the property owners about 30 days ago, and they were provided notice that tonight you would be considering this action. We also invited them to, if they had any comments or questions, that they could contact us as staff and discuss those issues. I think maybe one or two members of the public have reached out to us. So as you can see here in the program itself, we've identified a few issues, and some of those issues were, sewer, water, and animals were really the big three. When do I have to connect? How much is it going to cost, and some of those things that go on with that. So again, we went through our city ordinances and we talked, and we're spelling this out. And part of the process that we're trying to establish is, at some time in the future, people know what is going to be expected of and what the council is going to do in terms of an action. So in this particular case, sewer, for instance. Basically, we're looking at some of the policies, and all buildings and structures connected to septic tanks in the area shall be connected to public sewer within 5 years from the effective date of the annexation, or within 2 years of the public sewer becoming available, whichever occurs later, not sooner, later. So the minimum is 5 years. That's an existing code. The 5 years is an existing code, and then we added within 2 years or whichever occurs later. So the city code already says when somebody's annexed, you need to connect within 5 years when that sewer becomes available. We added an additional 2 and then said whatever's later. So if the sewer line, for instance, doesn't show up near somebody's house for 10 years, they're not necessarily going to be required to connect for 12 years. Right? I mean, if it connect, but if let's say it just shows up tomorrow, we annex and it shows up tomorrow, they still have 5 years before they have to connect. And there's some additional caveats in there. If somebody's septic tank does fail and that sewer is within 200 feet, they need to connect to it. And the reality is, it's going to be so much cheaper to connect to the city sewer line than it is to put in a new septic system. And the issue is as these septic systems, as they start to fail, it's incumbent upon the city, as you're now in an urbanized area, to remove those from your urbanized area and have those now connected into the city, into the city sewer system.
Excuse me, Mike, what happens if the system fails and the sewer system is not to the property?
Then they have the opportunity to either try to find it and see if it's close enough to connect. If it's not close enough to connect and it's more cost reasonable, then they can replace the septic system at that point in time. If we cannot provide them a service, it's the income. We can't require them to connect into something that's not nearby.
All right, okay.
So in other words, will you basically assist them in any type of way in reference to trying to connect?
Well, we're trying to get the sewer out there to them as soon as possible so they can connect if their system fails. In order to be considered available, it has to be within 200 feet of a property line. If it's not within 200 feet of a property line, they can come to us, we can have a discussion, but we're not going to require them at that time to connect into the sewer system if it's not available. And again, available is defined in here within 200 feet of their property line. Not the house, within their property line. One of the other things that we're trying to do is trying to minimize the impact on property owners, because when you connect, when they're going to connect in, when development connects into it, you have to buy capacity, you have to connect in and pay the fees on it. What we're proposing is those fees just get locked in at today's rate. If they have to come in 8 years from now and those rates go up, they still pay the original rate. So they're not going to be, then that'll be for a period of 7 years. Or it says expires in, 2013, or within 2 years of the sewer service being within 200 feet. So it could be 10 years. At this point in time, we're proposing 5, which is consistent with our city ordinance at this time. That we're just locking their fees into place and giving them we're going to be doing a impact fee and connection fee study in our budget next year. We're anticipating that those fees could potentially go up as the cost of construction has gone up. Even if it does go up, these property owners, for at least a minimum of 5 years, potentially longer, their rates are locked in place. And that not only applies to sewer, but it also applies to water as well.
Have we identified, excuse me, Mike, have we identified those people that basically will be affected by this?
Well,
the homes?
Yeah, anybody who's in master plan, and within the master plan area in Northwest Quadrant, is ultimately affected by this.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why these policies are in place. In your next item, you're going to see which projects are in phase 1, which are in phase 2, which are in phase 3, which affects different timing. But everybody's ultimately affected by this.
I guess the reason why I mentioned that is that because that becomes very personal in reference to those residents that are going to be impacted by that. Are we able to personally send something to them to have them to come out and I guess to address the issue?
We already sent something to them. We sent them this, and we sent them a notice telling them tonight is the night that you're going to talk about this.
Okay.
And we sent this 30 days ago.
Okay.
So we've given everybody notice. We've given them a time to look at it. We've offered to meet with them and to discuss it.
Great.
So we're trying to reach out as much as possible to do the public education.
That's important. Yeah.
Yes. We're also, as part of this, again, trying to minimize picture, we're also willing to enter into payment arrangements for people. as well. So that's on number 5 on there. And that'll be both for water and sewer. And a lot of these are the same template programs. Same thing will go for water. Now, water is going to be a little bit more interesting as we're going to be building a well out there real soon, and there's going to be a water tank out there as well. So, for some people who want to connect, that opportunity may present itself pretty early in the process. Could be as early as 2019 that they may have an opportunity to connect into city water. There are a few wells out there that during the drought, they weren't able to receive water from their own wells, so they had tanks brought in, and people and self-help enterprises would then deliver water to them, and they would use it out of the tanks. So some of those residents that had that situation, I'm not sure which ones those were exactly, may have an earlier opportunity to connect into city water at that time. Same type of things, you know, these are all city code stuff. If you're within 200 feet, you need to connect within 5 years or 2 years after that water is close to you, whichever occurs later. So a minimum of 5 years would be your requirement to connect, but it could be extended past that.
So basically, this is not new, it's continuation of city code.
It's a continuation of city code, correct. Again, the same thing with kind of failed wells. We would try to encourage them to try to connect into city water, and hopefully there would be city water near enough that they could utilize city water instead of drilling a new well. It'd be much more cost effective to tap into city water than it would be to drill a new well. Same type of things. The rates would be locked in for 5 years or 2 years before it becomes available. The opportunity for a payment schedule for any fee that may be applicable at the time. And then also, if there's multiple water options in terms of where they can connect, ultimately the city will have final say on what that is. And there's water system issues. It's a public water system. There's health issues that go along with that, so there may be certain reasons why we need to connect to a certain area on there. Some people have animals out there. They can continue to have those animals. So it talks a little bit about which ones can be kept and which ones, after the animal may expire, is no longer able to replace that particular animal. So this talks about that as well.
Under number 1 on domestic animals, or non-domestic, it says, will be allowed to keep said animals until they perish. It's a little confusing to me. Maybe it's nitpicking, but it's confusing to me. Are we talking about the landowner perishing?
To the animal.
Okay, maybe we ought to change the word.
We can do that, okay. Till the animal perishes.
It may be nitpicking, but.
Sure. Thank you. Sometimes you read it in your own mind. Sometimes it just reads different when. Okay. And then some of the other things we just wanted to make clarification, as under the annexation, police and fire services will be provided by the city of Newman. We actually probably provide a lot of the first responder-ish police and fire right now. Most of the time the sheriff is not in this particular area, so we may get a police officer out there, or West End technically responds out there, but they respond from the Newman station, and it's the Newman people that respond out there, so you'd see very little difference on there. Just a clarification, the city of Newman we don't have any special taxes, so property taxes for these people shouldn't change just because they were annexed into the city. So there shouldn't be any, their property taxes is not going to go up. We don't have any special taxes. We're going to get anything special. So their taxes will remain the same, other than the traditional what's allotted by state law in county. Schools, they're still within the Oristema Newman Crows Landing School District, continue to provide that. And then lastly, CCID, we actually have a draft agreement. We talked about working with some property owners there in terms of an exchange and using some of our water and sometimes, and We have a draft agreement. The terms, we've worked out terms with us and CCID, what they would accept. We've had Bill Abbott, who's worked a lot with CCID, draft up an agreement, so we'll probably have it this week, finish it up on our side, and then hand it off to CCID to make sure they're okay with it, and then we'll reach out to property owners who receive CCID water, and that might be in phase 1, and we'll work through that agreement with them. So at this point in time, I can answer any questions you may have on this particular program.
On the CCID, those terms are ones that work out well for the property owners that are out there, or within reason.
Yes, yes. Part of the concern was when you go from Tier 1 to Tier 2, in what's determined to be a critical year, and that term is defined by CCID's water with the Bureau of Reclamation. Tier 2 property owners may not get water. In that particular case, we have Class 1 water that we can use to supplement what they were not getting, and trying to make them whole.
Right.
So that's what we're going to be proposing.
Is that, we need a motion to?
Yeah, there may be people here who may want to comment on this, Mayor.
Oh, I didn't know you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a public hearing, but
Welcome to comment.
Mayor, open up for public comment. Yeah,
I'm going to open it to public comment. I'm sorry. We got to get everything just right. Even in the, please, if you'd like to go to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Sherry Marsigli, 820 North Avenue, Gustine, and also owner of 27807 North Highway 33 in Newman. I read this very, very carefully, and I do have some questions. In regard to the sewer as well as the water, I did not understand why there was actually a set number of years that would trigger any connection or making it necessary to connect. And I guess the biggest reason why I question that is that this could very well, we could fall off the end and have another slump in the economy, and everything could come to a screeching halt. So is that taken care of by the or 2 years?
yeah. Correct. So the 5 years is an existing city ordinance. We added the 2 years in case things stall out. We're not requiring you get an extra 2 years from when it gets close by. So it could be 12 years. It could be 10. We don't know what the economy is going to bring, so we're trying to build some flexibility.
And that's when it's within a reasonable distance for them to connect to, then it's within 2 years they must connect.
Within 200 feet, correct.
Right, and that's my next issue. 200 feet is a long way. It's 2/3 of a football field, right? Or that's 200 yards. 200 feet is actually, though, a long ways from when you're talking it's not really clear in this document. It just says the property. My property line and my house are two totally different things. You may be within 200 feet of my property line, but it's still a long ways from my house. And so this could be a very large expense. And I'm very concerned about the verbiage about the 10-inch main that I could possibly be responsible for. This sounds like it was written more for a developer, and I understand and I get it. And if I was developing my land and I was going to attach to city, and I had some plans in the works, and I was going to put in that 10-inch, and it gives me up to 7 years or whatever it is to get reimbursed through agreements. But if I have no intention of developing, I cannot, there's no way an individual with just in a house with no developing going on put in a 10-inch or larger water main or sewer main. That is prohibitive, absolutely prohibitive for a property owner, as is the 200-foot, depending on where the house is. So I would ask council if you would consider it being to the actual residence, because you're talking about one house on this property. Instead of being within 200 feet of my property line, it would be in 200 feet from the residence. So the question was, is that any portion of the property or the premise? It wasn't really clear. And then item number 4, that was the 10-inch. That's huge. There's nobody, I don't know anybody who owns a house out there that's living in it right now that could afford to put a 10-inch main in, whether it's water or sewer. Number 5, I was wondering if those terms could be extended. And the reason I was wondering that is because say I attached to water and sewer at the same time, the total would be $5,602.46. That's $466.87 a month if we were only given 12 months to pay it back to the city. So yes, I could have 12 months if I connected to sewer, and then 12 months if I connected water. If I do them both at the same time, it's almost $500 a month if you would consider a 48-month repayment. Over and over again, the 200 feet, it doesn't say, I would please ask that you make that to the residence or to the home. It very specifically says in here, this is only for one home and the person living in the home at the time of annexation, and I understand all that. But you could put a lot of money into extending these lines when your house is sitting in the middle of 8 acres. What if public water isn't available and your well fails? It doesn't really spell it out.
In that particular case, if it's not available and the property owner does not want to extend it over there, then they would have the option to re-drill a new well.
So it is based on you getting it there.
Correct.
No matter what.
Correct.
Even if we're annexed. Okay.
Correct.
Number 4, underwater, it says 60 foot to property line. Again, instead of the house, it's to the property line. It says on number 7, if the fees are for residential water service of 1 inch or smaller, what happens if you had to put a 10-inch main line in? Because you were specifically talking about a 1-inch line. It says you may have to put a 10-inch line in, but you're only going to get a 1-inch line to a single residence.
A 10-inch line would run through the property, but you're only going to get a 1-inch line that comes off the big one into your property.
So
There's
where
no
would we
reason to
run
have
the
a
line?
10-inch line going into somebody's property unless you're a large commercial development. There's no need for that much water.
So it is definitely, the 10-inch main is definitely written for someone who's going to develop. It's absolutely not possible for current people who are living there to even consider. And it says, you will get reimbursed in the future. Well, unless you're a developer, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
The language does specifically say, should a 10-inch line be required? It says,
Right,
should the
but who
10-inch line.
determines that?
Huh?
Who determines that?
The
So
city and
say
you.
my house is in the middle and you guys say, well, you need a 10-inch line for us to bring you water.
We don't, a 10-inch line is just way too big for a house. The 10-inch lines are distribution mains that run down the middle of streets that then feed off smaller lines.
Okay,
if you were
so you
subdividing-
run
So if a
water
single-family
down
house,
533.
if it's a single-family house, it's a 1-inch line. It's the biggest you're going to get for a single-family house.
So this in both sections, doesn't apply to me at all?
If let's just say the water line stops 150 feet from your property, you would then extend that, if it's a 10-inch line, you would extend it 150 feet to your property line and then run a 1-inch line into your house. There's a main line and there's service lines.
Right.
Okay, the main line is what we're talking about. So if you're within 200 feet of that main line, you may have to extend it 200 feet. So that way you can run a 1-inch line into your
Do you
house.
have any idea what that would cost?
I don't have it right now.
I don't think anybody who lives out there right now in a house could afford it. I would ask the city to help with that. I mean, we're getting annexed. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there against our will, And if you run water and it's come up and I've got to extend a 10-inch line for another 150 feet and then run my line to the house, I can't afford to live there. I'm getting run off my land.
Mayor, and I think part of what we need to understand here, and this says in cases of failed wells, if someone's well fails, they're already spending several thousands of dollars if they're going to even try to do a new well. So it's already, if your well fails, and that's a caveat that starts with here with number 5, right? In case of failed wells. So if your well doesn't fail, then we're not asking for that. So there's already a huge investment somebody has to make. Again, we're bringing this forward as some of the stuff that's already required by ordinance.
This is a huge annexation. It's the biggest thing Newman has ever done, and I would ask that you would please consider the people that live there, and that having to do that, whether my septic or my well fails or not, if you guys are building along and you're still 150 or 200 feet away, and I don't have water, I've just been encumbered by a huge expense that may or may not work. I could possibly punch my well down another 40 or 50 feet and hit water. So, I mean, I would really appreciate if you would look at the language of this very, very closely. And as far as the animals, I understand you don't want a bunch of animals running around the city limits, but they're addressed in this document as if they're all pets. And these are working animals. A non-domestic animal that is a working ranch animal is taken on and off site as needed. So you may be working for the next month or 2 weeks and getting up at 4 in the morning and getting your horse out of the corral and going up and working. And when you finish, whether it's calving season or, which is a lot longer, or you're working cattle for some reason, or you're moving them, and then now you don't need the horse for the next month, you may move it to another property and then have to bring it back. So making somebody keep their horse at their ranch until it dies just because you're annexed is not really taking into account, since some of these animals are working animals and they're moved around. They're not just fed a chunk of hay every day and petted and, buttercup or whatever. I get it. I know this document, if I was developing a property, it would be right up my alley, but I would really ask that you would consider some of the verbiage, making it a little easier for us that are there. And nobody knows. This could happen in 5 years. It can happen in 15. And we don't know what's going to happen, but thank you very much.
What's the possibility of implementing, and it's probably kind of under a legal thing too, is implementing a program, assistant program for those who have needs for assistance?
Who's going to pay for it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it just, each case is going to be different. So again, we're just looking at your existing code that's already on the books, trying to put this into a policy that's implementable. We tried to be as flexible as possible through payment arrangements, locking in fees. So we believe we've done some stuff that gets it there. But, do you make 100% of the people happy? I don't know that that's possible. But again, I think the city's putting forth a good foot by saying 5 years or 2 years within getting even close to you. That should take into account the market fluctuations that go on in the economy. If things dry up, when you look at the economy and the ebbs and flows, and we are basically due for another recession soon. If that recession hits and it doesn't come back for 8 or 10 years, then a lot of this could be moot, because nothing ever went out there, so therefore they're never within the 200 feet of it. So each case is separate and different. You have to, again, the 200 feet thing is something that's already in city code. So each one is strictly different. Technically, somebody's house could never be within 200 feet of a water line because they're 200 feet away from any property line. So at that point in time, you have to list property line as kind of a legal boundary.
In terms of who would pay for it, sometimes you can get a assistant program to where you have commitment from the participants in a program to where they're committed for X amount of years, that they're committed to make sure that those payments, if they're, are assisted in terms, I'll give you a figure, maybe $5,000 to $10,000, that they are committed to that money over a period of time to pay it.
There is some assistance in here. There's 0% interest on a 12-month loan. So I mean, it's not without it. So there are some things in there.
Could we look at maybe extending that a little bit, because we are encroaching onto their property by annexing them, and like she explained, if you have to connect both of them as a property owner, that could be pretty 12-month payback. I mean, that's a car payment. That's pretty hefty if you have to pay $400 or $500. If you is there a way to look at doing it on like a value to years term rather than a just 12 months no matter what? Because like if you're doing it, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 can hurt you pretty tremendously, especially if you're just getting by.
You're the council. You guys can choose what terms you would like. You can add language in there. You get 12 months per service. So if you have to add both services, you get 24
Right.
months. You can add that language in there. I mean, you're the council. You tell us. We're just giving you our best effort here. You tell us what you would like the terms to be. We'll incorporate them and go from there.
I think it's important to realize too that at some point, the landowners out there in that area that are being annexed are eventually going to sell off that property as it begins to develop. Maybe
Right.
commercial development and whatever. They're going to recover those costs. I understand that it's an out-of-pocket expense now, but when they sell their property to a developer or to a business that is expanding in that area, they are going to recover whatever investment they've made.
Absolutely, but if you have the property and you have to hook up the water and sewer, and then the economy takes a hit, and it's 10, 15 years later before that property gets developed, like we have some property out here that's taken a long time to get developed, you aren't getting that money back right away. And so paying for a couple years, I know if all of a sudden I had a new $500 bill I had to pay, it would hurt. And I'm not saying some of those people, can afford it and some can't. And it's for us, it's not a tremendous amount of people. It's not thousands of people. It's a handful of people that are out there that are being affected. To extend the terms a handful more years or a handful more months doesn't seem like it would be too devastating on the.
I'd be comfortable with 24 months.
I'd say 12 months per
12 months and then an
per
additional
system
12
if they're
they need
hooking
it
up.
For both. Question? Certainly.
Nico Marsigli, 820 North Avenue, Augustine, California. I'd just like to respond to Councilman Day's comment on selling out. I know some people may look at doing that, but for our family, for example, that house has been in the family for 4 generations. My grandpa was raised there. My parents went there as children. My cousins were raised there. I have many fond memories of the house as well. So some of us, regardless of what you might think, we aren't looking to sell. We're looking to keep that the house in the family, and just thinking that these costs will be paid off later as we sell and that sort of thing. Well, I wouldn't think of that so much, because there's some of us who don't plan on selling. Our family, for example, that house has been there for 4 generations, like I said, and hopefully it stays that way for as long as I live, and so on and so forth. So I wouldn't really put so much thought into, they're just going to sell off and they'll get the money back someday, because that's not the case for all of us, respectfully. I just like to say that. So
I appreciate your comment.
thank you. That's all.
I appreciate your comment.
So what is the pleasure of the council? Would they like to extend it?
I'll make a motion that we add that to both the sewer and water, that 12 months would be the standard, but could be extended to 24 months if both systems are necessary.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just.
You raised your hand, so I thought.
There's a motion on the floor.
Oh, is there? I second that motion.
Attorney has a,
We have another comment.
So just for the record, Mayor, I don't
Just
believe
roll it, please.
public comment hasn't been closed yet.
No, I know.
So
Okay, so I can't make a motion.
so
All
I
right,
would,
all
I
right.
would request that the
Okay,
council member
that's fine.
state.
That's fine.
Juanita
Okay.
Gillard,
Hold on.
553 Marquez. Not that I'm in the annex thing, but the city manager did mention at some point everyone will be affected. And I'm just trying to figure out what everyone is, or just referring to this particular Northwest Newman master plan.
Yeah.
Is that what we're?
Yeah.
When we say everyone would be affected, may I clarify that by saying each of the property owners within the master plan boundary
Oh, okay.
at some point would be affected.
Okay. And then a question in reference to the two payments for separate systems. You had mentioned a 0%. Is that going to be for both as well? Yeah. Okay. I just want.
okay, we are still in open session, so anyone would like to speak to the council, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
I would just like, I appreciate you guys hearing my concerns. Most of my concerns are questions that arose because the verbiage is not clear. And so, again, 200 feet from the property line is a big deal. The 10-inch main is a big deal. And saying that if there's no water within 200 feet, you can rebuild, you can redig your well if we don't have the water there, but it's not in writing. And so anytime somebody says something that's not in writing, it makes me really nervous. So I'm just asking that you clear it up. I mean, I don't think it would be any big deal. This isn't going to affect anybody for a while. If you guys need to clean it up and bring it back, clean up the verbiage a little bit and make it really clear, it would make me a little more comfortable. Thank you.
And for clarity, the 10-inch main would just be if it's within 200 feet of your property line, that would need to be extended, not 10 inches all the way to your house. That wouldn't be, it'd be just, you know, if it's 100 feet from your house, just that additional 100 feet, not the whole way to your house. From that point forward, you'd go with a smaller main, a 1-inch line to your house to feed it or whatever, so.
How much is 100 feet of 10 inch?
Right.
Engineered by
I-
standard.
Right.
Okay, any other comments from the public?
I'm sorry, I already stated. Because I need to restate it. Juanita Gillard, 553 Marquez. And it just in reference to, now I've completely lost my thought. My concern is the verbiage with her in reference to the verbiage. Are you prepared as a city to make a decision now, or are these going to be addressed before this goes into motion?
Well, when we bring it back to the council, then you'll hear what they recommend.
Oh.
Any further comments from the public? There being none, I'll bring it back to the council for direction.
Mayor, if I just may, the verbiage that is written in here is consistent with the verbiage of the ordinance. That's why it's carried forward in this manner, unless the city attorney wanted to add something else.
No, the only point on that, council, is to remember that the policy can't override the code, the ordinance. So that's the law. And so unless the law is changed, this can only really supplement that, but it can't override or make it more restrictive.
But that does mean that we can talk about the extension of the terms and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yes, because that's more of a guideline and policy that the council is considering for carrying this out, as opposed to contradicting something that's already written in the code.
Okay.
So, Michael, on this, this is pulled directly from our current
Yes, the stuff about extending it and when you have to
Right.
connect, that
And
is
that-
ordinance.
That's
They-
how it's written.
Correct.
plain
The
as
lock,
day.
you know, the fees and the payments are not.
Right.
That's more of a policy issue. But like on the reimbursement agreements, with city policy is a 7-year policy. Should be also noted that if you are subject to a reimbursement agreement because you extended main, you get interest on that. You get, I think, 7%. There's a state mandated interest rate, so you usually get like 7% or 10% interest rate on that reimbursement agreement. So if you put out, let's just say $5,000, you're getting every year you're getting a compounded interest rate of 7% on it. So
I'd just like to comment to the young man again. I understand your concern. I wasn't trying to minimize that for you. I appreciate the heritage and the interest you have in maintaining the homestead and that kind of thing. But I'm also struggling with having to look at what's best for our city and what's going to happen to your particular property when all the properties around you start doing something different, okay? And that was the basis for the comment, not trying to pick on you particularly, okay? And I appreciate your concern about maintaining your family heritage. That's important.
Did you pull it back to us for decision?
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, then I make a motion that we extend the terms on the financing for residents that do have to extend their lines and tie in to sewer and water up to 12 months per at the current rate that you're talking of 0%.
I'll second that part of
Motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Thank you.
And
Okay. Regular business. B, adopt resolution number 2018, next number, a resolution of annex referrals to the Stanislaus County Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, for the annexation of the Northwest Newman Master Plan dash Phase 1.
Mayor, just before our planner, Mr. Ocasio, starts, just for the public, there are color maps on the back that'll show the exhibit up there. So if you want something a little bit closer and see a little bit more in detail, there are color maps on the back over there.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you is the Lafco application for the Northwest Newman Master Plan. In 2007, the 2030 General Plan was adopted. As a result, Policy LU 2.2 was created that required the use of master plans to ensure orderly growth. The Northwest Newman Master Plan has been proposed for General Plan Master Plan Area Number 3. Said plan was initiated by a group of landowners in 2010. However, due to the economy, that effort was abandoned. In 2012, staff saw the possibility of capturing future job growth due to ongoing economic developments in the region and proposed that the city lead the project with costs to be reimbursed via fees and development agreements. The city council agreed. In October 2017, the project was reviewed by the Planning Commission and voted 2-1 in favor of the project. However, the motion did not pass due to the lack of a full commission present. The project proceeded to the City Council with public hearings held on both November 14th and December 12th, with all involved property owners notified. The City Council certified the master plan's EIR, adopted findings related to significant impacts and alternatives, adopted a statement of overriding considerations, adopted the master plan document itself, and related general plan amendment, annexation, and pre-zone applications. After the aforementioned approvals, a notice of determination as required by SEQA was filed with the county clerk on December 14th, and staff began the preparation of the project's Lafco application. As a result of public comments received and discussions with CCID and Lafco staff, It is proposed that the Northwest Newman Master Plan be annexed in phases, as you can see before you on the colored map. A phased approach will prevent the premature conversion of farmland, allow the continuation of existing agricultural uses without impacts to CCID water rights, and creates a growth approach that will coincide with market patterns. The proposed LAFCO application is for Phase 1, which is the red portion. I don't know if my mouse is, it's on. Oh, there we go. The red portion of the project area. This portion will include all of the job-generating growth, job-generating uses of the master plan document. Residential development is identified in future phases. If approved by the City Council and subsequently LAFCO, a modified general plan and zoning map will be brought back to the City Council for approval. In conclusion, LAFCO approval is the next step in the process for this project. Therefore, staff recommends council adoption of resolution number 2018 next to number, a resolution of annexation referral to LAFCO for the annexation of the Northwest Newman Master Plan, Phase 1, approximately 111 acres. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council?
Mayor, just real quickly, just a point of clarification. Here's Fig Lane right here, the stuff on the west side of Fig Lane, these parcels in this area, you can see it on there. If you have the map, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, 15, and 16. Those actually have a residential designation. They're not a commercial or business park. They do have residential. So there's a small piece of residential land use in there. Just as a point of clarification, I didn't want everyone to think that the whole thing was, non-residential.
Oh, I didn't clarify, I'm sorry. I meant future land use. I didn't.
So
mean
that's
current.
all west of Fig Lane?
Yeah, the stuff west of Fig Lane is future residential.
Right.
That's all that I had. Staff's here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Mayor, and there may be some members of the public here, if you want to open it up for public comment, that may be
The
appropriate.
public comment, if there's anyone who would like to speak to the council. There being none, I'm going to close it to public comment and bring it back to the council for direction.
I think breaking up in the phases is a good idea. It extends timelines on other, the further out phases instead of bringing them in. So I move that we adopt resolution 2018 next number, a resolution of annexation referral to the Stanislaus County Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, for the annexation of the Northwest Newman Master Plan Phase 1.
And I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Thank you, sir. C, adopt resolution number 2018, next number, a resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to the Stanislaus County Master Property Tax Sharing Agreement between Stanislaus County and the City of Newman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one. So in 1996, the city and Stanislaus County entered into a master property tax agreement for land that are going to be annexed. And we've done that under state code in section, I don't even remember what section it is. Section 99 of the Revenue and Taxation Code. And it just requires how property taxes are going to be divvied up moving forward. Part of that agreement for the 1996 agreement basically says the county gets all the base tax, so whatever the tax is at that particular point in time, they keep that number. And then as the property increases in value, then the city and the county split that. The county gets 70% of the ups, and the city gets 30% of the ups. So the county still gets a pretty good deal out of it. There's been a change in kind of leadership at the county level that has allowed us to have some opportunities to discuss that split. And while we haven't made any real progress with respect to residential property, we have made some progress for non-residential properties. So if you go back to the map, So everything basically west of Fig Lane out to the highway is our job generation, and that would be subject to this agreement, and it's also included as an exhibit in the agreement. What'll happen in those particular properties, and it's only these properties here, it doesn't extend to existing residential, or commercial in the city. With the split then becomes, instead of a 70-30, it becomes a 50-50 split. So the city is going to get a larger percentage of the property taxes for the non-residential portion. The residential portion will remain the same.
That's after the first 70% split.
No. So what'll happen is, let's just pretend that we annex it this year. Next tax, and as the property increases, it goes 50-50 split. They keep all the base, and it goes 50-50 split as opposed to a 70-30 split. So essentially, we could, in theory, we're getting 20% more of the value that's out there. 66% more than we were getting before, but in total, it would be 50% of the others. So that's a significant increase. As you know, and a lot of times in the non-residential, the stores and the valuation of those buildings is a lot higher. So that makes it a lot better for us. Under the current agreement, you may find this a little bit shocking. In a residential, or under the 70-30 split, we get about 9 cents on the dollar. And so when somebody pays, $2,000 in property taxes, we get about $180 to provide police, fire, recreation services. So it's not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money in it under the current rate. The good thing about why we're really pushing, this particular annexation is because of this commercial area. Because commercial provides a higher valuation, but it's also the opportunity to create sales tax and some of the other things. For residential, again, you only get 9 cents on the dollar. It doesn't really pay for itself. So, anyways, we think this is a good deal. Once we approve it and submit our annexation, this will go on to the Board of Supervisors, and we anticipate that they'll approve this sometime this summer, and then moving forward with this particular area once it's annexed and the valuations start to creep up. And nothing will ever happen really until somebody sells their land. It's locked into the Prop 13, what it currently is. But if somebody sells their land and or develops their land, and those valuations increase, then the city gets a larger percentage of the shares. I can answer any questions that you may have right now.
I have a quick question for you, Mike. On all new residents housing, there in the city of Patterson, they have this program, the Melrose.
Yes.
We're not looking at that for our new residents.
Well, I can't say yes or no. We are looking at it. Whether it's going to be in there or not, we haven't run the financials on that yet. As you know, phase 1 is really just the non-residential portion of it, so we're not going to have a Melrose or a CFD, probably on the non-residential portion. But when the residential comes in, we'll run those numbers and start talking to the developer, and we have to ensure that residential pays for itself. And if that requires a Melrose or a CFD, then that would be probably staff's recommendation at that time.
And that's just on new residents.
That's correct. That does not. That would only affect properties located in the northwest quadrant. It would not have any impact on existing residents. And it would only be done again under the guise of the property selling and or developing. It wouldn't impact anybody who owns property in this area right now. It would not impact them.
Any other comments from the council? Shall we open it to public hearing?
You can, might as well.
Might as well. Let's be consistent. We're going to open to public hearing. Very important subject, so anyone like to make a comment, please go to the podium, state your name. That is for the record. Being no one, I'm going to bring it back to the council for direction.
Move to adopt resolution number 2018 next in number, a resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to the Stanislaus County Master Property Tax Sharing Agreement between Stanislaus County and the City of Newman.
Second motion.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just out of curiosity, ma'am, where is your property located on that map? In what phase?
In the big white house,
Which phase?
She's in phase 1, she
the
would
second property from the property, the current city
Oh,
limit.
off the road back here. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Just curious.
It's a very historic one.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to item 11. Item from District 5, Stanislaus County Supervisor, Mr. Jim DiMartini. Welcome, Jim.
Not a quick one tonight, huh, Jim?
Now, good evening, Mayor Martini, council members, you'll go a lot faster than Patterson. At least the topics here are interesting. I just have a few things here tonight. You know, the Crow's Landing Air Base, as I told you the last time, the environmental impact report was extended for 45 days. That will most likely be the last time we extend that. There's roughly about 30 days left for anyone, including the city or individuals, to make comments on the project. And then we will close it, and we will address the comments then at that time. So there's roughly 30 days left. Today, the Stanislaus County had their public health report. I don't usually report on that, but it was kind of interesting. There, the public health officer went through county statistics on the communicable diseases and the general health of the county. And although it's better than it has been in past years, it's still below the state average. In fact, the worst was the heart disease was the worst county in the state with coronary heart disease. Why, I don't know, but it just was. Things like diabetes were above average, from the state average, and the infant mortality was higher than the state average too, actually by quite a bit. So I'd asked why, and they said, well, they can't really pinpoint why. They said that the health of the mother has a lot to do with the infant mortality. So anyway, it was kind of a so-so report for us. Every year, we look at this and we try to be in the state average. So some places we're doing good, and other ones we're not. But anyway, the reports should be available online because we just had that today. So a lot of interesting statistics. And all sorts of things from communicable diseases, sexually transmitted diseases, West Nile virus, hepatitis, and all these things that we have instances of in Stanislaus County as compared to the rest of California. There's a lot of information in there that's just kind of interesting. And while I'm on the health part, the Health Summit, as you know, is still on schedule here at the West Side Theater for June 14th at about 5 o'clock. So we're putting together the program. We made a lot of progress on it the last meeting. So the speaker, but I don't know the name of yet, is going to be provided by Dr. Osprey. I'll probably know soon who it's going to be, but they said we did get confirmation from them that they would provide the speaker. And we also have firmed up the senior program for senior abuse. This is a new program for the Healthcare Task Force. And it will be September 27th at the Hammond Senior Center in Patterson. We're also working with the city of Dustine for a human resource center. It's something you have in Newman. Patterson has it, Center for Human Services. So they do not have such a thing in Dustine, so we're trying to assist them and trying to get that off the ground with a nonprofit, the Legacy Foundation. And just the last thing, last week, in fact, it was Thursday there, I spent part of the day here in Newman with our probation department, checking up on some of your citizens, and so they got to see a little different part of Newman than what I usually do when I come here. The probation department is actually a very interesting thing to ride along with. I was with them all day. We went through South Modesto, Groves Landing area, Newman, and Patterson. No arrests were made here in Newman with the other cities that were. But they do pretty thorough searches, and of course these are people on probation, they're subject to search. So they search for weapons, drugs, and whatever they can search for. So it was really interesting, and I think the stops we made were a lot more big. But it was interesting. I hadn't been out with probation in about 2 years. I visit every department every year, but last year with probation, I went to juvenile hall instead. They are checking up on if you're on probation. It doesn't matter where you are in the county. The probation department will be there, and there's no notice that they're coming either. These are surprise visits. So I thought they did an excellent job in handling themselves. Anyway, that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
I have a quick question for you. Groves Landing project. Is there or do you know of any legal lawsuits on that project?
Nobody's threatened any lawsuits. We do, our only dispute is with Patterson over what they want the county to agree to, which is the South County corridor going down Zacharias Road, and they had something else too that they wanted. Both of them were unreasonable. There's no lawsuits in there. They wanted us to support their project, so they wouldn't object to ours. They're not threatening any lawsuits, although we would like to use their sewer system for the industrial park. If we can't work that out, we'll build our own. And the comments, I haven't read all the comments, but the county staff has said they're negligible. There's nobody upset threatening a lawsuit or has any serious objections. The only one is what Patterson wants us to agree to some things that I don't think that we're going to. In fact, I'm sure we're not going to. And but that's it. The last project that was proposed by Camillus was a much different project. It potentially could have had residential housing. It was 4,500 acres. It had freight coming in from the Port of Oakland on rail. This project has none of that. It is just the 1,500 acres of the air base. There's no rail, no residential housing, industrial only. And so there's nobody so far as objecting. In fact, at the time, it was extended because of Patterson. There really was no comments of any real significance as far as traffic or mitigation really of anything. The answer is no so far, but we've still got 30 days left.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. With that, we'll go to item 12, the city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple updates. So we're continuing to work with CCID and Heather came in on an agreement that we talked about for some potential transfers of water. Continue to work with labor negotiations with our two groups who their MOUs contract expire on June 30th of this year. We've made some pretty good progress, so hopefully those will be wrapped up in the next 30 to 45 days. Good news, we are on the State Water Board agenda for April 6th to get a new sewer permit. I've only been working on this one 12 years. So what I'm going to do with the rest of my tenure here, if I don't have a state agency to fight with, but maybe we'll pick Caltrans.
There's a lot of room to work there.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's great news that that'll be done. But again, getting the new permit, Lance already told Ms. Reyes, our public works director, gave her the budget for next year because they're putting in a lot more testing and a few other things. So it doesn't come without a cost. And ultimately that cost is borne by us as ratepayers. And then lastly, this Parks was here today for her to present to the Metro. That project is out to bid. So we believe that we got there pretty early in terms of the bid process. We're hoping to get 4 or 5 bidders. The engineer's cost estimate is about $1.8 million. So pretty significant road improvements that our residents will see here in the community. It's about 5 to 6 years worth of projects rolled into one. So we thought, let's get out there and make a big impact. And then if SB1 survives the elections this year, then we'll use SB1 money to do some other maintenance kind of improvements as opposed to road repair. With that, I can answer any question you may have.
Any questions for Michael? Thank you, Michael. Police Chief, anything tonight for us?
Just a reminder that Newman Police Canine Association is putting on their annual crab feed, which is April 21st. I do have tickets if anybody wants them, or we have them available at the police department if you want to come in later.
Thank you.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I heard there was a rash of car thefts. Is that factual?
It is. We've had a string and they're coming in spurts. We're coordinating with the Stanislaus County Auto Theft Task Force to get more enforcement out this way. You won't know that they're here, but we'll know that they're here. They don't come in black and white, so we're hoping to put a stop to it. It appears it's outside influence and just coming through towns, and it's not just Newman there terrorizing the West County from Dos Palos all the way to Patterson. So we're finding them basically just transportation or stealing tools or minor car parts off of and then just dump it.
Okay, don't let us steal our cars.
We're trying.
Anyway, thank you. Stephanie?
Good evening. Wanted to let the council know that trees have been planted along Hills Ferry Road in front of the villas. There was some issues with some of the species, so we had to do a lot of homework. So they are lovely with the assistance of our Public Works Director, selecting a proper species, and they're already blooming a little purple. So they're babies still, but they're gonna look nice. And a zone change will be brought before the City Council next month as a result of a recommendation by the Planning Commission this month. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? No question. Thank you. Lou?
Staff has completed submitting all the documents for the financing of the well tank and booster pumps. Now we're just waiting on the water board to reply back to us. Expect probably another 4 to 6 weeks before we hear back. And completed the treasurer's reports for March. I believe most of you already got those already. That's it.
That's good.
Any questions, anything else?
Any questions? Financial Director? He's got all the money. Okay, thank you. Hey, Catherine?
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everyone that we're going into spring cleanup next week, Monday through Friday. We have several sites around the Public Works Yard available to drop off general debris, household hazardous waste. Shred It Day is Saturday, April 7th. You can bring 3 boxes. Come early because once they fill the truck up, they leave. And then there's also the tire amnesty event. They'll take up to 9 tires with no rims from 8 to 3:30. That's at 712 Fresno Street. Go on the website or call Public Works if you want more information on those services that are available. We did review the budget when we got a call about some trees on Sherman Parkway, and we are obtaining quotes right now. I'll make contact with the gentleman and make sure he knows that his trees will be removed probably within the next 60 days.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Aren't we coming very close to finishing up with curbside pickups? Where people
31st.
put their tree trimmings and that kind of thing out April 1st, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay,
I
so
believe the end of March it should end.
So it's important that people remember, after April 1st, don't dump your tree limbs and stuff in the yard. You gotta dispose of them otherwise.
Thank you, that's an important reminder.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mary. Casey?
Yeah, I got a couple things. Nothing too major. Mike, can we look into West Side Theater and what we can do to help them out based on
Yeah,
their
we'll
requests?
put that in, we asked them to come now because we're preparing our budget.
Right.
So our recommendation will come in the budget.
Okay, thank you. This is just more of a statement. I'm not a big fan of Mello-Roos, and I'd like to try to avoid that at all costs. I know it drove a lot of people away from Patterson, which was a good thing for Newman. A lot of people moved down here. A lot of my friends moved down this way because they didn't want to pay that extra fees. And I don't want to drive people further away from Newman to, per se, Gustine or somewhere else where those fees aren't there. So if there's any way to avoid that, maybe gain more property taxes from the county, you know?
You know, the main difference that we had, that we would be evaluating is in the Patterson CFD, they funded a lot of projects.
Right.
They funded a aquatic center, a senior center, some of the infrastructure. The only conversations we've had so far would be to make the city whole. Meaning, if you're only getting $200 and it costs $600 to provide services to that residential, where does that other $400 come from?
Right.
And so that's the conversation we're having. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm telling you that that's the conversation. Any conversation around the CFD would be.
Absolutely, I get that. I just want to try to avoid it at all costs. I don't think it's a good avenue for a city to take. And the only other thing I had was, Jim, I appreciate that you go down and visit Gustine and get them involved in the west side. I know that's not in your influence of voters and that, but you get them involved and they're kind of out of the reach of Merced. Merced kind of ignores them that, so I think that's pretty important to get them involved with our community and the whole west side. So, that's all I had.
All right.
Nothing.
Just to say, I'm not a fan of Melrose either, as long as I don't have to pay for it. The other thing I wanted to, Chief, coming down 33, people making a left-hand turn off 33 onto Jensen Road. That is illegal, the left-hand turn, is it not?
Is it legal?
Is it illegal?
It's legal currently.
It is legal? Really? There's no place to make a left-hand turn? No?
No.
There's no lane designated
Yeah.
for it, but it's the striping that Caltrans did
Yeah.
through there. But it's turning onto a roadway, so it's a legal turn
Okay, darn.
currently.
I've seen 2 close calls in the last 45 days.
It's not the best intersection
Yeah.
because of the roadway that is county currently.
That's a really horrible intersection. A lot of kids cross there too.
Right. We need it.
Going to school because they cut down Jensen, so that's an area that needs to be improved.
Maybe
and
the
they're
county could
concerned.
help us a little bit with fixing Jensen, so it's not quite so narrow.
Well, it's going to be ours soon.
Before it's annexed.
Yeah, maybe look at a stop sign at that, because that's a very busy intersection there.
Well, that's Caltrans.
That's all Caltrans.
Good
yeah.
luck. Good luck.
Currently, we only have the roadway, we only have one section, which is northbound on the east side, is our lane of traffic. So if there's an accident there, it's ours. Anywhere else in that intersection, it's CHP.
What if you close that road? What would happen?
People would still use it.
Make it one way.
People would still use it.
It was brought up before about making it a one-way street, and that might be a conversation after it becomes our street that we might need to talk about until there's improvements in that area, but would that, I think
It's just a
Peter.
crazy street.
It's terrible. That's all I have.
Nick, Barry?
Nope, nothing tonight.
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I'm sure that a lot of people weren't exactly happy, but you know, whenever we're in a period of change here where we're annexing land and stuff like that, there's gonna be people that are gonna be hurt, and it's unfortunate, but it's for the good of the community and the future of this city, as far as I'm concerned. That's my own personal feeling. But anyway, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for being here and taking time with us. And with that, I'd like to ask for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
We are adjourned.
Well, long question.